Hey everybody, it's Jay, and today I'm taking a look at a new to me, actually it was new, I don't even know why I said new to me, but a new Smith & Wesson Model 627 PC Performance Center, which is an 8-shot revolver. You can see I have snap caps loaded here, chambered in 357 and 38 special. So my perspective on this is really going to be one of what I would consider to be a revolver newbie. I, for whatever reason, have never really gotten much into revolvers. Most of my experience has been with Misha's revolvers, which are by and large military surplus, military issue, because that's his purview of interest. And that really cuts out a lot of modern production revolvers. Pretty much all of them, I would say. Most of those are just old military surplus revolvers, so I haven't had much experience with the modern stuff personally. But for reasons I'll get into later in the video, I decided to pick up this Smith & Wesson Model 627. The only other centerfire revolver that I've had up until this point is my Czech Alpha Proj revolver, which is pretty rough and ready. Yeah, not a great trigger, pretty heavy, gritty trigger, not the best. But I paid about $450 for it, and I had some 357 and 38 special ammo left over from a previous buy. So it gave me something to do to play around with on the range and have a little fun with. But so keep in mind that everything that I'm talking about here is coming from not a position of an expert. I wouldn't go so far as to say we're experts on a whole lot of things, but this is something that I want to really emphasize that I'm not an expert on this. I am really, really new at the revolver game. So, a few things about this revolver. I already mentioned its kind of main selling point, which is the 8-round cylinder in 357 and 38. And that comes as a result of this being on Smith & Wesson's in-frame. Now, for the most part, when you look at Smith & Wesson's line of revolvers, their frame sizes are the further deep you get into the alphabet, the larger the frame, with one major exception, that being the so-called Ladysmith, which I think ended production in 1922 and was a very tiny little 22 mouse gun, basically. But for the rest of them, like a J is smaller than a K&L. An N was chambered originally designed for 44 Smith & Wesson, not 44 Magnum, but 44 Smith & Wesson. And then you have the next step up, which was introduced, I think, in 2002, it was the early 2000s, was the X frame for the 500 Smith & Wesson, and then also chambered in 460. And then beyond that, you have the Z frame, which is their judge line, basically. The Governor is what their version is called, which, if I remember it, I chambered in 45 ACP, 410, and then 460, I think. I could be getting those numbers wrong. I'm trying to do this all off the top of my head, and to be honest with you, the Z frames just don't really hold much of any interest to me. I say now, knowing that in a year I'll probably be doing a video on one of those two. So, you have a pretty hefty revolver for 357 and 38 special, which is a good thing because heft kind of helps reduce some of the felt recoil because you have a little bit more mass absorbing that vibration. We also have adjustable but fairly basic black on this kind of convex brass front sight, which picks up really nicely in the light. I'm not sure if you can see that in the camera. I'll take a look and see. Yeah, you kind of can. You see it really picks the light up really well, and it makes it really easy to get on target with. So, again, I'm not a revolver guy, so I'm only going to speak to my experience. By the way, I've already done something that's going to make revolver guys mad. I kind of spun this to show you the cylinder was empty, or was, chambered with nothing but snap caps. So, apologies to anybody getting triggered watching this video. Like I said, I'm not a revolver guy, but I'm not going to do anything deliberately to damage the gun. The trigger is good for me. It's good to me. And this is someone who has not shot a lot of tuned revolver triggers. In fact, the only other closest thing I could get to shooting a tuned revolver trigger has been with another PC that didn't go through any kind of special service or anything to get smoothed up. So the single action trigger, which again, I keep checking this just out of, safety habit, I guess, is I think right around 3.5 pounds. And it's consistent. You can see we have an over travel stop here in the trigger. So you don't really have much of any over travel at all to speak of. Just a very crisp, very nice, very light trigger. The double action is very smooth and even. There's not really any grit at all to it. But even the performance center trigger, to me, seems to be excessively heavy. My trigger scale weighs out at 10 pounds, and this totally blew past that, blew past the actual measured marks. So I'm guessing it's probably around 12 pounds, maybe 11, but I'm guessing probably closer to 12 pounds. So the double action takes some work for me to pull whenever I have it gripped properly. And it's not... I could definitely see why people who are shooting competitions with these things actually end up doing action jobs, because it's still challenging for me to shoot extremely accurate with it in double action. Over the course of 2 weeks, I put about 700 rounds through this revolver, and again, being someone who's totally unfamiliar with shooting revolvers in double action, it was definitely a learning experience. It was a fun learning experience. Shooting guns always is a fun learning experience, but that was a totally different skill set that I've had to get accustomed to, and that heavier trigger pull makes that a little bit more challenging for me. But I've gotten there. I'm at a point now where I can very consistently aim, get my finger on the trigger and pull the trigger, and hit clay targets at about 7 yards, and then turn around and immediately hit clay fragments, which are usually about an inch or so in diameter by the time I destroy them, and I'm hitting them consistently. So I've come a really long ways of barely being able to keep this thing on paper shooting the double action trigger at 7 yards to really consistently hitting clay targets and then hitting the fragments. Now, like I said, it's actually, shooting this revolver has been really, really fun. I really like shooting 357 with the right grip, meaning the grip that fits you well and that you can keep control of the gun with well. It definitely lets you know it's there. It's a Magnum caliber shooting 357, full power 357s is what I'm shooting, factory loads, 158 grain. But it's not so much that it's uncomfortable with the current setup that I have, and also with the Hogue grip that is included. There are 2 grips included out of the box with this gun. The Hogue mono grip, which is pretty generous, rubbery, has these finger grooves, and also wood grips, which are quite slim, and really they fit my hand a little bit better than the Hogues did. But the issue that I had with this is they're really slick. Like, the texturing is present, but it's also really, really minimal. It's not super aggressive. And then up here we have slick sides. So while I was able to get a better length of pull from my hand to the trigger, I just couldn't keep control of it, honestly. And after I shot 500 rounds with the Hogue grip, and I did fine, but it wasn't as accurate. I felt like I was pulling my shots a little bit too much, and then was doing better from that standpoint with this. But after 200 rounds in an evening of shooting full power 357s, I came back in, and the webbing of my hand here was just pushed out and blue, and I had a hard time even making a fist for about 2 days after that. So not particularly comfortable. I was reading online with some people to see what grips people recommended, and I also tried out this VZ grip. Now, I must be becoming a revolver guy because I have 4 grips for one gun, but I tried these VZ grips and fit my hand really, really well as far as grip to trigger pull. Sorry if I'm saying a lot. I just realized I'm doing it. The only thing I didn't like about them, though, is, for one, there's no recoil absorption whatsoever with them because they're hard. I think that these are micarta, if I remember right. I didn't say micarta, I said micarta. I'm a little stuffed up. We're right in the middle of the dust storm here now as I'm talking. And then the texturing on it is just a little too aggressive. Now, you can take some sandpaper and kind of mill that down a little bit, but yeah, I just wasn't as comfortable, so I ended up going back to the hoe grip for a bit. The problem I had with the hoe grip, though, is with these finger grips, and I'm normally a finger grip apologist. I typically happen to be one of the people that if you design it for the average, it doesn't fit anybody, but I happen to be that 5% that finger grips usually fit. But what I found was the finger grips prevented me from getting a real high choke up on the grip, and which also kept me from getting a good angle on the trigger, and so then I was pulling my shots a lot more. So what I ended up doing, this is also a hook grip. This came from Speed Bees, and what I believe that they have done with this is they've just taken a standard monogrip and milled off all of the finger grooves, and it is available without it, but they also add a little wooden heel to it, a wooden butt to it. I think they call it big butt grips. And I did that because the standard one is kind of rounded here, and I could see that being an issue for not having enough room to get my pinky on. And I wanted to have as much control and as much of a solid grip as I could. It's taken me a bit for the appearance of this to grow on me, but with a lot of really ergonomic grips and just ergonomic things in general, you end up having to sacrifice some cool looks. I think these VZ grips are super cool looking. I think you have to sacrifice some cool looks a lot of times in order to make some ergonomic considerations. And that's fine because this grip from Speed Bees fits me like a glove. This is one of the best fitting revolver grips that I've ever experienced. There's only one that I think fits me a little bit better, and I'll save that for another day because you can't get them for the 627. My only real complaint here is with this material that they've milled off. You can see the back strap is slightly exposed here, and you can see that there's some peeling up on the edge of the rubber, and that isn't really anything other than slightly cosmetic, but you can also kind of feel that line in your hand when you're getting a good grip on it, but it's not uncomfortable. It's just, it feels like something is there. Something is there that's not supposed to be there. But again, that's more of a cosmetic thing really than anything else. Obviously, the gun has been 100% reliable. I have not had the Hillary hole problem that is very popular to talk about on the internet. You can see the carbon scoring around the forcing cone and around the cylinder, and again, that's because I've shot 700 rounds through it. I actually did I did clean it at 500 rounds, and then I've shot it 200. I think I've shot it about 250, maybe 300 rounds since then. So I actually have about 800 rounds through this gun, and I have not bothered to clean it again since. But yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's nice to have a nice revolver to shoot, because I can definitely see why people might kind of get into them a little bit for more than just, the perception that revolvers are less prone to failure than semi-autos. So how I ended up with this one is actually, I had been considering picking up a Desert Eagle. And when I mentioned to both Misha and my wife that I was thinking about getting a Desert Eagle, they were pretty quick to talk me out of it because they know what my tastes are, really, probably better than I do. And I had been looking at getting a 357 because I just really wanted to shoot some more 357, and I thought a Desert Eagle 357 might be fun. Then I started reading the issues that 357 Desert Eagles, and actually Desert Eagles in general, have with reliability. 357 ones are very particular about ammo, not just in the grain weight, but also the specific brands. Some brands work better than others, and even that, a lot of times you have problems with reliability. This is not a review of a Desert Eagle because I don't actually have any hands-on experience with a Desert Eagle, because this is an airsoft Desert Eagle. This is not a real Desert Eagle. I actually ended up buying this just so I could kind of get the feel of it, since this is a licensed airsoft copy. It's out of gas there. This is a green gas model. just to see if I thought I could even handle a real one, because I do have issues with larger grips. And I'm probably going to end up sticking with just a standard airsoft version and not actually invest in a full-size one. Because not only do I not have to worry about reliability problems with any kind of 357 Magnum, even really weak, underpowered ones in this revolver, but I can also shoot 38 Special, which is a lot cheaper, a lot of times not any more expensive than 9mm is. And the other thing, too, is the 357 Magnum Desert Eagle has a 9-round capacity. This Performance Center Smith & Wesson has an 8-round capacity, so I only actually lose 1 round by going to a gun that is way more reliable and was also about $400 less expensive. So, no Desert Eagle for me. This is my Desert Eagle stand-in, I suppose. It's just this old grandpa's gun.
Oh, you mean a grandpa's guitars?
One other thing that I got to kind of facilitate reloading is this 5-Star Arms. I forget what they call this. I think they call it a range kit. Basically, you can get one that comes with 1 or none or 5 speed loaders. Again, we've got some 38 Special snap caps here. But what I like about this is I can preload all of these cylinders and then load the 2 speed loaders, and generally can pretty quickly reload without having to spend a lot of time reloading. So it helps me shoot a lot, and that's really why I've been able to shoot, or why I ended up shooting as many rounds as I did, is because I could preload this thing and be ready to go pretty quickly, and end up putting a lot more rounds through it than any other revolver that I've shot previously, because the reload times are just so much faster doing it that way. I don't have to manually put one in at a time over and over and over again. Lost a snap cap somewhere. But these are pretty cool. They're made of aluminum. You can pick them up here. Find that snap cap. Pick it up here. Lock it. And then, like you saw earlier, just drop it in. So it's works a little bit smoother with 357 and with real rounds than these snap caps, because these snap caps are so light that they tend to catch in that aluminum speed loader and pull it back out of the cylinder. I have not had that issue at all with real ammunition. They make all kinds of different sizes for these, like I said, and they make them for just about every common revolver you can get. So that's kind of a neat thing. Anyway, so from the perspective of someone who, like I said, is not a revolver guy, and has been reading a lot from revolver guys about what revolver to get, I have been pretty pleased with this. It is a lot of fun to shoot. The only constraint really for me right now is just going to be buying ammo for it, because I shot over half a case through it already, and I don't really see any signs of slowing down, but it's been a really fun skill to learn. So anyway, probably more to come, more revolvers to come. I think I mentioned in a post previously, about a month ago or so ago as of this recording, that it's been very revolvery around here. Probably will continue to be, especially as semi-auto stuff just doesn't seem to be doing it for either one of us right now, because there's not really that much new and interesting coming out right now. So we're both spending some time, both Misha and myself are spending some time getting to know guns that maybe we haven't paid much attention to previously. So I don't really know why I've not been much of a revolver guy. I guess there's been other semi-autos that I wanted more to shoot, and kind of at the point where that's not the case. Maybe I'm just getting old.
Grandpa's
guitars. Who knows? Anyway, thanks guys for watching. Hope you liked it. Please click like if you did. Be sure to subscribe to us if you haven't, and go check out our Patreon page if you want to help support us. This is Jay, and I will see you again soon next time.